This is the homework for page 258. We have our test on Monday, so let's review what we're supposed to do when we multi-step problem solve. Okay, the first step to your problem solving is to read the entire problem. So if we go through these steps, we've talked about these. Read the entire problem, rewrite the question as a sentence with a blank, decide who and or what is involved in the problem, draw your unit bar. I mean, these are all the steps that we always do. So we're going to go through these steps, and I want you to follow along and check your work with me, because we've got to start doing this. This is what you'll see on pretty much all of your tests from now on out. So the first thing we do is we read the question. Eva sold 7 boxes of granola bars that have 24 bars in each. She sold 5 boxes of fruit bars that have 18 bars in each. How many bars did Eva sell? So it did not say about how many. It did not say how many more. We want to know how many total bars she sold. So we are looking for a total. So if we drew a strip diagram that represents the total, this is our graphic organizer for our problem. So what do we know that we sold? We know the parts. We have granola, and we have fruit bars. Those are the 2 items that we have. So we can split up our parts and label them. We have granola, and we also have fruit. Those are the types of bars. So that might help us figure out what we're looking at. So we have 2 parts. We should always just chunk up our math problems. Let's just focus on granola. Okay, so what do we have with granola? We go back into our problem and say, okay, we have 7 boxes of granola bars, and there are 24 in each. So that sounds like a multiplication problem. We have 7 groups of 24 granola bars. So we're just talking about granola. You can use distributive property, you can use area model, traditional multiplication. I'm going to use distributive property. 7 times the value of this 2, 7 times 20 is 140, plus 7 times 4, which is 28. We'll add those 2 values together, and we'll get 168. So we have 168 granola bars, and then we have fruit bars. So we're finished with the granola. Now we find out the fruit. So let's go back into the problem. We have 5 boxes of fruit bars. There are 18 bars in each. So 5 groups of 18 bars. This is our boxes. These are how many bars are in each box. So 5 times 18. 5 times the value of the 1, which is 5 times 10, plus 5 times 8. There's 40 and 50. So we have 90. 90 fruit bars. So now we've figured out our parts. All we have to do to find our total is add these 2 parts together. So 168 plus 90 is 258. So we can erase our question mark. We found our total. We know how many bars were sold. So there's our answer. We had a trick. Well, this one is a trick. Sometimes they have tricky questions. The trick here is if you added them incorrectly and forgot to carry this 1, then you would have gotten 158. So just be really careful when you're looking at these and make sure that you're finding the information that you need to find out, but chunk it up into parts. Okay, so check your work with number 7 and see if it matches that. Okay, so now let's go across to number 8. Laura is making a necklace that is 5 rows of beads wide with 72 beads in each row. There is a center purple section that is 3 rows wide with 54 beads in each row. The rest of the beads are black. How many black beads are there? So what we're focused on is finding out how many black beads there are. So let's think about what we know about this problem. We know about the total necklace. She's making a necklace that's 5 rows of beads wide with 72 beads in each. So that's our total. So this time we know our total. And we know that there are 5 rows with 72 in each. So that sounds like a multiplication problem to me. So let's just start with one thing at a time. Let's look at our total. We have 72 beads in each row times 5 rows. I'll do traditional on this one. 2 times 5 is 10. 7 times 5 is 35 plus 1 is 36. So we know, see, I didn't try to solve the whole thing at one time. You have to look at what you know and then work from there. So there's, there is our total amount of beads. Now what types of beads do we have? We have purple and we have black. What do we want to find out about? We want to know about the black beads. So let's label black beads, and we have purple beads. Do we have enough information to find out how many purple beads there are? Yes, we have a clue. It says there is a center purple section that is 3 rows wide with 54 beads in each row, and those are the ones that are purple. So let's find out about the purple. It's 3 rows with 54 beads in each row. So you could work this any way you want to. I'll go ahead and work it traditional on this one. We have 54 times 3, and this will tell us what? How many purple beads we have. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16. So we know that 162 of these 360 beads are purple. The rest will be black. Well, since we have a part of our whole, if we take out the part we know, we'll be left with the part that we don't know. So 360 minus 162 will give us the beads that are black, and that's our question mark. So 0 minus 2, can't do that, so let's borrow. It's 10 minus 2 is 8. 5 minus 6. 5 minus 6, you can't do that. You can't take 6 away from 5. We need to go next door and borrow. So that becomes a 2, and that's a 15. 15 minus 6 is what? 9. 2 minus 1 is 1. So we have 109. So what you need to do is think, is my answer reasonable? Is my answer less than the total amount we have? Yes. So we should be able to go back and add these two numbers back. See, this shows your part-part-whole relationship. We have two parts that would come together to equal this total. This total minus this part equals that part. It shows your little fact family here. So our answer to our black beads is 198. 198. Okay, let's look at our next problem. Problem number 9. Craig practiced his drums 4 hours more than twice the number of hours Nikki practiced. Nikki practiced 5 hours. So Nikki practiced 5 hours less than Marcia practiced. Marcia practiced for 16 hours. How many hours did Craig practice? Now this sounds extremely confusing. So let's go ahead and just start small. First we need to look at our question. How many hours did Craig practice? That's our ultimate goal. Well, this is what I've called in class, I've called this a comparison problem. We have several people we're talking about here. So what we need to do is look at who we're talking about in this problem. We have Craig, who are our characters. It's like a little play. We have Craig, we have Nikki, and we have Marcia. So I'm going to make a strip diagram that looks like this. We have Craig, Nikki, and Marcia. We'll make our start bar. Okay, now let's pick out the information that we know for sure. We always start with what we know. And Marcia practiced for 16 hours. We don't have to do any math calculations to figure that out. So let's start with Marcia. Okay, so let's all start with the same amount. And we'll start adjusting our pictures to match what's going on. Okay, so Marcia practiced for 16 hours. Okay, so there's Marcia. We know about her. Okay, so we can check that off. Okay, so let's see. Who are we comparing to Marcia? It says Craig practiced, and he's talking compared to Nikki. Well, we don't know Nikki's number yet. So let's go to Nikki. Nikki practiced 5 hours less than Marcia. Okay, so we're comparing Nikki to Marcia. Nikki practiced 5 hours less than Marcia. Well, here is Marcia's number, which is 16. If they were the exact same, I would make it less by 5. So we're going to take 5 off of Marcia's value, right? So let's see. Let's work our calculation to the side. We know that Nikki's number is 5 hours less than Marcia's. 16 minus 5 is 11. So we know that Nikki's value is 11. Now we can figure out Craig's number. So we're comparing Craig's number to Nikki's. So let's adjust Craig's to match Nikki's because we're starting off with the same value as Nikki. So it says Craig practiced his drums 4 hours more than twice the number of Nikki's. Well, it says 4 hours more than twice the number of Nikki's. Well, here's twice Nikki's. This is Nikki's value, and this is twice as much. We'll double it, right? And then we'll look at 4 hours more. So here's 4 hours more. So is this twice as much as Nikki? Yes. And then is this 4 more than twice as much? Yes. So let's just add these numbers up. We have 22 plus 4. What's 22 plus 4? It's 26. Have we found our ultimate goal? Because our goal was to find out how long Craig practiced. This is one of those really involved problems that you have to draw a picture to kind of wrap your brain around, I think. So do it. Yeah, and these unit bars kind of tell you longer, shorter, how much. As long as you start labeling things, you'll be able to keep track of it. Okay, so check your work and make sure your strip diagram, try to make sure you're going back into it and finding important information and writing it down step by step. Chunk it up. Okay, this one was real confusing today when we did it in class. Number 10. It says a quilt is made up of 400 squares. So envision in your mind a quilt. It's a blanket. It's usually in a rectangular shape. So what we could do is just draw a quilt. Let's just draw what we're talking about. Here's the quilt. Okay, we know that the total quilt is made up of 400 squares. So if we made a strip diagram for it, here's your total, which is 400. That's how many squares there would be in this whole quilt. Okay, so let's see. Each section is 16 squares long and 4 squares wide. So that tells you how large the squares or the sections are. It says there are 4 sections that are made of red. The rest of the quilt is blue. How many blue squares are in the quilt? Okay, so we have 2 parts. We have red and we have blue. What we want to know is the blue. So blue squares gets the question mark. We know about the red, we just kind of have to figure it out. They gave us some clues. So let's look back and find out about the red. It says there are 4 sections that are made of red. So I'm just going to start drawing. Here's a section. Here's a section, here's a section, and here's a section. This is red, 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 red. Okay, so we're literally just drawing what's going on. If you can do that, you'll start understanding where the numbers go. It says each section, so each one of these parts, is 16 squares long and 4 squares wide. So let's just write that down. It's 4 by 16, each of them. They're all the same size. 4 by 16. Well, what is 4 times 16? Let's work that calculation. 16 times 4. I'll do it with traditional. 6 times 4 is 24. 1 times 4 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. So each of these sections has 64 squares. So now can we find out the total number of red? Sure, because we have 64 in each of these sections. 64 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. That's 24. Plus 1 is 25. So 256 red squares. Now you might stop there and say, oh look, here's my answer. Well, that's a trick because we're trying to find out the blue, and 256 is the meaning of the red squares. So be very careful when you do that. Don't just stop halfway. Make sure that your answer, if you label them, you can look at your answer and say, oh, wait a minute. We're being asked about the blue. This is the answer for the red. So what do we have to do? If we have a total and a part, all we have to do is take out the part that you know, and it leaves you with the part that you don't know. And we'll do that by subtracting. So 400 minus 256. 0 minus 6, can't do it. Can we borrow from a 0? No. Can we borrow from a 4? Yes. So this is a 3. 10 come next door. Now we can let the ones place borrow. So that becomes a 9. 10 come next door. 10 minus 6 is 4. 9 minus 5 is 4. 3 minus 2 is 1. So 144 will replace our question mark. So 144 is our answer. Now, should we be able to go back and add these two numbers together to equal 400? Yes, that is a great way to double check your answer. 144 is correct. Okay, we only have 2 more to go. Let me fold this. Okay, so Joyce has 7 12-ounce packages and 3 24-ounce packages of frozen strawberries. So they come in different sizes. It's just like at the grocery store. If you look around, the grocery store is a great place to look at math. The question is, how many ounces of frozen strawberries does she have? So we know we have 2 types of packages. So let's go ahead, and we know we're looking for a total. This is our question mark. We have 2 types of packages. We have 2 types of packages. We have 12-ounce packages and we have 24-ounce packages. Now these are, the trick is to think about this number. We have 7 12-ounce packages. What does that mean? We have 7 of them. So if we're looking for ounces, how many ounces are in each of these packages? 12. So it's really 7 groups of 12 ounces, isn't it? Each package is 12 ounces. If we have 7 packages, it's 7 groups of 12. So 7 times 12 will give us the answer to this many ounces. So I'm going to use distributive here. 7 times the value of this one is 7 times 10, plus 7 times the value of this 2, which is 7 times 2, is 70 plus 14, which is 84 total ounces. So now I've seen that part of the problem. I have one more part. So do you see what I'm doing though? I'm chunking things up in smaller parts. So now I can focus on the 24-ounce packages. How many of those do I have? I have 3 24-ounce packages. So what I'll say is it's 3 groups of 24 ounces, isn't it? So 3 times 24. Okay, so 3 times 20 is 60. 3 times 4 is what? 12. So what's 60 plus 12? It's 72. So now we know that we have 72 ounces of strawberries contained in those 3 packages. So now we know how many ounces we have in these types of packages total, how many ounces we have in the 24-ounce packages. All you have to do is add these 2 together. So 84 plus 72. That's 6 and 15. 8 plus 7 is 15. So we know that our total amount of ounces is 156. So what did I do? I knew I was looking for a total. It says how many ounces, not how many more. It said how many. It didn't say about how many. We're not estimating. How many. That means they kind of want to know a total. So we had our parts, had to figure it out to get our total. Okay? Last problem. We're talking about an apple orchard. David planted his apple orchard in 6 rows with 22 trees in each row. He planted his almond orchard in 8 rows with 28 trees in each row. How many more? Oh, look at this. How many more almond trees than apple trees did David plant? So Anytime you see that, we know we're underlining a question. If it says how many more, we know we're talking about what? I know you're saying it, subtraction. So we know we're going to compare almond trees to apple trees. But we have to do some work first. So let's focus on apple trees first. Okay, so you could, this is another way to do it. You could separate these two pieces of information like this. Whoops, it's almonds. I made a mistake. That's what erasers are for. So we have apple trees and almond trees. So what do we have with apples? Let's only focus on apples. Chunk it up. 6 rows with 22 trees in each row. So if we made a rectangular array for that, it would be 6 groups of 22 trees. So 6 times 22, 6 times 20 is 120. 6 times 2 is 12. So we'd have 132 apple trees. If you did this in a traditional math problem, maybe 22 times 6, it's still 132. Okay, so here's the almond part. We figured out how many apple trees there were. Now we're going to look at how many almond trees. So like I said, I want you to chunk everything up. Figure out one thing at a time, and I really think that'll help you with your multi-step problems. So the almond trees. The almond orchard is in 8 rows with 28 trees in each row. So if we draw a picture of that, it will be 8 groups of 28. So I'm going to write my multiplication in my box. 8 times 20 is 160. 8 times 8 is 64. If I add those two together, I have 160 plus 64. That's 4, 12, that's 224. So I have 224 almond trees. So clearly this is greater than the apple trees, and we are looking for how many more almond trees there are. So what they're asking us to do is find a difference. And the difference between these two numbers can be found by subtracting. After all, the answer to a subtraction problem is called a difference. So let's go ahead and set it up. We have 224 minus 132. So remember, I put the larger number first. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 3, can't do that, so we need to borrow. That becomes 1. 10 come next door. We already had 2, so that's 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. So there are 92 more almond trees than there are apple trees. And 92 is one of our answers. And that's a true statement. Okay, well that is our problem solving. I guess what I wanted to show everybody is that drawing diagrams of what's going on is really going to help you think through your math problems. So I wish you good luck. Study Module 7, and we'll test on Monday. Good luck. Show Mom and Dad and family members your math journal because they're looking great. Thank you.